Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today into the sources surrounding, well, one of the most prominent and really impactful leaders in the world, Narendra Modi.
Yeah, absolutely. And our mission really is to take these articles, these biographical bits, all these notes we've gathered, and just pull out the most important uh, nuggets of knowledge and insight about his journey, his policies, and the landscape of India under his leadership.
Sounds like a big task.
It is. We'll try to cover, well, pretty much everything from his early life right up to his global recognition, and also touch on the controversies that have definitely marked his time in office.
Great. So let's start at the beginning, the foundational details. Narendra Modi, born September 17th, 1950, Vadnagar, Gujarat. Our sources highlight this really fascinating detail. Born into a pretty modest Gujarati family, father ran a tea stall.
Right, the whole Chaiwala narrative.
Exactly, the Chaiwala, the tea seller reference from his youth. How significant is that origin story as presented in the material we looked at?
Well, what's striking, according to the sources, is just how central this humble beginning is to his public story. It paints him as, a man of the people, someone who rose from very modest circumstances.
Right.
Despite the financial challenges, he did finish his schooling in Vadnagar, showed early interest in things like debate, theater, but critically, in his teens, he joined the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, the RSS.
The Hindu nationalist organization.
Precisely. And the sources really stress this had a profound influence on his ideology, his political path. It shaped his thinking long before formal politics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also worth noting his education, the BA from Delhi University, the master's from Gujarat University, that's been subject to some public scrutiny too, which the sources do mention as part of his record.
Okay, so the RSS influences early on. But then here's where it gets really interesting, right? His formal entry into politics. He joins the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, in 1987.
Yeah, and rises pretty quickly through the ranks.
And our sources point to his strong organizational skills. Can you maybe elaborate a bit on that? Like, how did those skills show up, and why were they so crucial for building the party in Gujarat?
The material suggests his rise was rapid, mainly because he had this remarkable knack for mobilizing people for strategy. He wasn't just, a figurehead.
He was hands-on.
Very much so. Deeply involved in grassroots stuff, building the party's presence from the ground up. This sort of practical, dedicated approach, it made him indispensable, really.
So that explains the swift ascent to General Secretary of the BJP in Gujarat.
Exactly. Played a huge role in solidifying the party's base there. Known for meticulous planning, execution, really getting things done on the ground level.
Okay, so this takes us into a really pivotal period. His time as Chief Minister of Gujarat, appointed in 2001 after Keshubhai Patel resigned, and he served right up until 2014.
A long tenure.
Very. And during that time, our sources note, he led the state through significant economic reforms, industrial growth, big infrastructure projects. What was it about his approach in Gujarat, based on the sources, that allowed that growth and built such a strong reputation?
Well, the sources often talk about the Gujarat model.
Right.
Okay? That became the term.
Right.
And it was characterized by this real emphasis on rapid industry-led growth, attracting investment, especially foreign capital, and building up infrastructure, roads, power, ports.
But the sources also look critically at this period, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. It's crucial to get the full picture. While economic growth was definitely significant, critics cited in the material argued it sometimes sidelined social equity or didn't benefit everyone equally.
And there's the other major event from that time.
Yes. And understanding this period really requires acknowledging the 2002 Gujarat riots. A terrible time, over 1,000 people killed, mostly Muslims.
And Modi's role?
Well, the sources state clearly he faced criticism for his handling of the situation. It's important to note, though, he was never found guilty by Indian courts. But it's a point the sources consistently highlight as a defining and obviously highly debated moment in his career.
Okay, so moving from Gujarat to the national stage, 2014, he leads the BJP to this landslide victory, becomes the 14th prime minister, and interestingly, the first PM born after India's independence.
A significant symbolic point.
And then re-elected in 2019 with an even bigger majority. That shows pretty significant public backing.
Undeniably. And the sources detail a whole raft of key reforms and policies that have really shaped his national leadership. Where to begin?
Well, there's the big economic stuff.
Right. goods and services tax, the GST, a huge overhaul trying to unify India's tax system. Then there was the highly impactful demonetization in 2016.
Very controversial.
Extremely. A bold move aimed at curbing black money. But yeah, lots of debate around its effects. Plus campaigns like Digital India pushing for more digital access, Make in India trying to boost manufacturing.
And the social campaigns.
Yeah. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the Clean India mission, focusing on sanitation. That got a lot of attention. And more recently, the revocation of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir, a major constitutional change altering the region's status.
And the Aadhaar system.
Right. The expansion of Aadhaar-based welfare systems, linking benefits to that unique ID. All these things, the sources suggest, are part of broader efforts towards economic and defense modernization.
So beyond all this domestic policy, Modi has gained, well, considerable global recognition. Our sources highlight his strong speaking style, his big digital presence, and especially his very active foreign diplomacy.
He's definitely made a mark internationally.
Yeah, featured in lists like Forbes, Time, World's Most Powerful People. What do the sources suggest are the key factors behind this global recognition? How has he projected India onto the world stage so effectively?
Well, this really raises that important question about India's changing role globally, doesn't it? The sources credit his very active and personalized foreign diplomacy, building close relationships with many world leaders.
Face-to-face meetings, lots of travel.
Exactly. And his oratory, often delivered with this powerful digital presence, for across Twitter, other platforms, lets him connect directly with audiences everywhere. The material suggests he's strategically positioned India as a key geopolitical player, leveraging its economy, its democratic values, to boost its influence, often arguing for a more multipolar world order.
But while that recognition is clear, our sources don't shy away from the controversies and criticisms either. Critics accusing him of an authoritarian style, centralizing power. How do the sources elaborate on those critiques? Especially the claims about limiting press freedom.
Yeah, the sources consistently present these criticisms as, significant parts of the story. On one hand, critics cited in the material point to what they see as a concentration of power in the prime minister's office, maybe a lesser role for other institutions.
And the press freedom issue.
Well, various human rights groups, as mentioned in the sources, have raised concerns. Alleged pressure on media, a feeling that the space for dissent is shrinking. Additionally, the sources detail how Modi and the BJP face criticism for promoting Hindu nationalist agendas, what some call religious nationalism.
Oh, right.
And critics allege this focus on Hindu identity has, at times, led to the marginalization or even targeting of minorities. It's important we state, we're just reporting directly from the information in the sources here, trying to give you that full, impartial picture of all the perspectives.
Understood. And beyond the big policies and global stage, the sources also give us a little glimpse into the person, highlighting aspects of his personal life. The material notes he married Jashodabin Chamanlal young, an arranged marriage, but they've lived separately since his early adulthood.
Right, and he only publicly declared that marital status in 2014. The sources flag that as, noteworthy.
Yeah.
And indeed, the sources often describe a very disciplined, almost austere personal lifestyle. He's known to be vegetarian, practices yoga regularly.
Discipline seems to be a key word.
It does. The material also says he works incredibly long hours, maintains really tight control over his public image, his communication, very carefully crafted messaging. This personal discipline, as presented, often ties into that image of a dedicated, maybe even ascetic leader.
And finally, the sources mention he's authored several books, poetry, leadership.
Yeah, poetry, leadership, youth development. And his life story itself has been portrayed in documentaries, films, even a biopic, PM Narendra Modi. So his personal story is definitely woven into his public image as much as his policies are.
So after all that, what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've taken this deep dive into what is frankly a fascinating and really complex narrative. Narendra Modi, from the Chaiwala origins to Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy.
We've touched on the big policy decisions, the controversies that have definitely marked his career, and this unique way he's positioned India globally.
Yeah.
It seems clear from all these sources, he's a figure of just immense influence domestically, globally. He's undeniably left an indelible mark on India's path. And understanding that journey really means looking at the whole spectrum, right? All his actions, their reported impacts, embracing all the nuances the material presents.
Definitely. So as you reflect on this deep dive, maybe consider this thought, something provocative to mull over. How do a leader's early life experiences, especially ones as formative as, say, growing up at Chaiwala or joining a really influential ideological group like the RSS early on, how might those experiences continue to shape their governance style, their impact decades later on both national and global scales?